In the last days of November 1951, a new clerk started at a bakery complex in West London. The employer, Lyons and Company, teashops, cakes, Swiss rolls, and the new clerk was a computer. Its first job, bakery valuations, pricing the week's bread and cakes for the company that baked them. Universities had computers. The American census had one, but what no computer had ever done was a day's ordinary office work for a company. Until Leo, the Lyons Electronic Office, ran a routine live business job. A tea company ran the world's first live business job 3 years before IBM's first business market machine reached a customer. Americans can't believe this. They think you're making it up. But it really was true. The first computer that ever did a day's work was built by a cake company. The first Lyons tea shop opened in 1894. By mid-century, some 200 of them made Lyons Britain's largest catering company. Its corner houses served up to 5,000 people at a single sitting. Lyons built its own ovens and its own delivery trucks. It grew its own tea. This was all real. An office problem, millions of tiny transactions, armies of clerks. Lyons' chief comptroller, John Simmons, had run an efficiency office since 1932 on a single idea. An office is a machine that runs on people. In 1947, Simmons sent comptrollers Oliver Standingford and Raymond Thompson to survey America's best office machinery. One line on IBM's future stood out: "Continual research is going on, but as far as we were able to learn, the aim of this company is to use electronic calculation purely as an adjunct to punched cards." The reference check on IBM was not impressive. Herman Goldstein, American mathematician who'd helped pioneer electronic computing, by then at Princeton, pointed them home to Cambridge University and Dr. Maurice Wilkes. That October, the board received the report. Its members discussed building a machine in our own workshops. The decision: do more due diligence first. The trail led to Cambridge, where Wilkes was building EDSAC, one of the first computers that could store its own program, which the comptrollers found half-built in July 1947. Lyons backed it with a grant of £2,500 to £3,000, depending on whose minutes you read, and one clerk on loan, Ernest Lenaerts, a Royal Air Force radio and radar man. The cake company's due diligence? Send money and send Ernie. In late 1948, before the board had even approved the project, Lyons advertised £600 for a chief engineer. John Pinkerton asked for £800, and Lyons gave him £900. That's how serious they were. Pinkerton joined that January 1949, chief engineer of a computer nobody had yet approved, built from parts nobody sold. One Thursday in May 1949, as Simmons recalled, Cambridge phoned mid-board meeting. EDSAC had successfully computed a table of primes, proof the machines worked. On whether Lyons should build its own, the answer came back 5 or 10 minutes later: yes. A tea shop board greenlit building its own computer in the time it takes to drink a cup of tea. Built at Cadby Hall by no more than 20 people, Leo followed EDSAC's logic, modified for business paperwork, and a programmer actually named Leo Fantl, said it looked like a battleship. The board minutes named it Leo in September 1949. First, someone had to work out how you even tell a computer to run a business. And David Caminer flowcharted each job into checkable steps before a line of code was written. The work that would come to be called systems analysis. Then the machine itself. Where the earliest electronic computers had to be reprogrammed by physically rewiring them by hand, Leo's innovation, like EDSAC's, was to hold its program in memory. A new job was a program encoded onto paper tape. Not a new machine, each one handwritten in the machine's own numeric code, since programming languages didn't exist yet. By September 1951, Leo got the sums right, but not the printing. The machine could think, it just couldn't yet write. By the last days of November 1951, that was fixed, and Leo took bakery valuations over for good, live. Written by John Grover to Caminer's design, under Leo's first programmer, Derek Hemy. By the participants' numbers, the 50 hours a week clerical job took Leo about 12.5 hours, formally declared complete in December 1953, 2 years after it had already started doing the job. A new job was to automate the payroll. A trial on New Year's Day 1953, the first live run on Christmas Eve 1953, and from February 1954 the whole payroll for 1,670 bakery staff ran on the computer. The clerical backup never needed again. A clerk took about 8 minutes an employee. Leo took a second and a half. It even worked out how many sixpences went into each pay packet. The next new job, the teashops. Every afternoon, each of some 200 manageresses, all women, was on the phone to a human order taker with a card punch, reading out only the deviations from her shop's standard order. Overnight, Leo turned those calls into baking schedules, van loads, invoices, and costings. What's been called the first integrated management information system. Its inputs, in the end, were 200 women talking to human beings. The next challenge, stock, pricing, blend recipes. In Frank Land's own department, the computer blended the tea. By the team's own telling, night crews won late-night meals in the executive dining suite, barred to them by day. The catering company paid its programmers in dinner. November 1954, a note from the Wembley tea shops, perhaps the first computer fan mail. The head staff would like to give thanks for Leo. This is a wonderful time saver and work saver. 1952 brought a new colleague, Mary Coombs, hired off the ice cream sales office, the only woman among 10 on Lyons' computer appreciation course, and one of 2 people it kept. She was not the first woman to program a computer. Women had been programming the machines that came before. She was the first woman in the world to program a business computer, and the world got round to thanking her while she could still hear it. The government that had doubted a cake company could ever build a computer started sending it work anyway. Ballistics for the Ministry of Supply. Brigadier Hines offered £300 in November 1951. The taxman's pay-as-you-earn tables recomputed after every budget. Britain's first experimental weather models, years before the Met Office owned a computer. Every station to distance on British Railways by the Leo Computer Society's account. And from 1956 Ford of Britain's payroll as a paid bureau service. The same machine that priced Swiss rolls computed missile trajectories. In 1954, the board let the machine take outside clients. Leo Computers Limited. The cake company had gone into the computer business. That scepticism from the British government? It held right up until the first British government computer system was a Leo, the Ministry of Pensions Payroll, late 1959. Leo 2 became operational in 1957, Leo 3 in 1961. An all-transistor version, replacing the vacuum tubes, could run many programs at once. Dunlop's order, by the Leo Computer Society's account, was won after a protracted battle with IBM, the tea shop now beating IBM in open competition. Occasionally, but the file began to thin. Derek Hemy, Leo's first programmer, was poached by EMI in the mid-50s, the first of many. The machine got better, and the company got lonelier. Then IBM got the last laugh. Its first business market machines reached customers in December 1954 and July 1955, 3 years late to the party the cake company threw. In 1963, Leo was merged into English Electric, and David Caminer, who designed how Leo worked, recorded the staff's dismay and disbelief. IBM announced System 360, and English Electric bought Lyons out entirely. Total Leos ever built. Some 73 by the Society's count. IBM made that many in a good week. Finally switched off in January 1 was by then the oldest electronic computer in daily service. The last Leos ran post office telephone billing until 1981, 30 years from that first day's work. Sadly, no complete Leo survives. Documents, components, reels of tape, but no machine. Machines of its era stand in the Smithsonian, Leo got a blue plaque in Hammersmith near the old bakery. The first computer that ever did a day's work has no grave, only a headstone. In October 1964, English Electric paid £1,856,250 for Lyons' half, which, by the two companies' own statement, approximately covers Lyons' total expenditure on the Leo computer project since its inception. By Lyons' own arithmetic, after 17 years, the invention of business computing, and it broke even. Lyons beat IBM to the future by 3 years and, by its own arithmetic, broke even on it. Somewhere in that gap is a great deal of the history of British computing. Everything here is documented, every source pinned below. Thanks for watching.